The 1979 United States quarter dollar is part of the Washington Quarter Series, a design first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and it continued in circulation for decades as one of the most widely handled pieces of American coinage. The 1979 issue from the Denver Mint, identified by the D. Mint mark located to the right of Washington's ribbon tie on the obverse, is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, which replaced the silver composition after 1964, making it durable, corrosion-resistant, and economical for modern circulation. The obverse of the coin features the famous bust of George Washington originally sculpted by John Flanagan, with the word Liberty boldly arching across the top rim, and beneath Washington's chin appears the national motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase mandated on U.S. coinage by tradition and law. The lower rim displays the date 1979, signifying the year of minting. The reverse depicts a majestic heraldic eagle with wings outstretched, clutching a bundle of arrows symbolizing readiness to defend the nation, while olive branches below represent the nation's desire for peace, and above the eagle's head appears the traditional motto E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many, one, emphasizing the unity of estates that make up the United States of America. Surrounding the design at the rim are the inscriptions United States of America at the top and quarter dollar at the bottom, denoting the issuing authority and denomination. More than 400 million quarters were struck at the Denver Mint in 1979, making the coin common in circulation, and most pieces found today are worth little more than face value unless they are in unusually high grades, such as Mint State 65 or higher, where their surfaces show full original luster, sharp details, and virtually no contact marks. Extremely high-quality examples certified by professional grading services can hold modest, collectible premiums. Although there is no widely recognized major mint error specific to the 1979 quarter, minor errors such as off-center strikes, die cracks, filled dies, or struck-through debris can occur and may attract collectors, depending on their severity and uniqueness. The coin's copper-nickel-clad construction gives it a silver-gray appearance, though unlike pre-1965 quarters, it contains no silver, and its reeded, grooved edge helps deter counterfeiting and prevents coin shaving, a historic problem with older precious metal coins. Because the Washington quarter design remained essentially unchanged from 1932 until the launch of the 50-state quarters program in 1999, the 1979 quarter represents the classic circulation era of American pocket change, a period when this familiar portrait of Washington was carried daily by millions of people. In everyday numismatic terms, the 1979 quarter is appreciated not for rarity, but for its place in the long-running Washington quarter lineage, its symbolism, and its role in American monetary history, and for collectors assembling date and mint-mark sets, it fills an essential slot in the late 20th century clad series. Whether found in a jar of spare change or preserved in mint-fresh condition, the 1979 United States quarter dollar remains a representative artifact of American commerce, design tradition, and national identity, carrying with it the mottos Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and E pluribus unum, which together reflect the country's values, aspirations, and historical continuity. Next top. The 1977 United States quarter dollar is a copper-nickel-clad Washington quarter struck at the Denver Mint, identifiable by the small d mint mark positioned to the right of George Washington's ponytail ribbon on the obverse, and it continues the long-running series first introduced in 1932 to honor Washington on the 200th anniversary of his birth. The coin's outer layers consist of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, producing the familiar silver-gray metallic color. Without containing any actual silver, a change adopted after 1964 when rising silver prices ended precious metal circulation coinage. On the obverse, the iconic portrait of Washington, originally sculpted by John Flanagan based on a 1786 bust, faces left with finely rendered details of the hair, the high cheekbone, and the subtle profile, and above his head arcs the bold word Liberty, the name of the American ideal and the hallmark of U.S. coinage since the earliest federal issues. To the left, directly before Washington's chin, appears the national motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase that became standard on American coinage, beginning in the Civil War era, and now reflects both historical reverence and legislative requirement. Below the portrait, the date 1977 indicates the year of issue during a period of stable but high-volume coin production, and the Denver Mint that year struck over 250 million quarters, making the 1977 D common in everyday circulation even today, despite their abundance. Well-preserved examples, graded mint state 65 or higher by major grading services, can carry noticeable collector value because high-grade clad coins from the 1970s are surprisingly challenging to find without contact marks, bag abrasions, or loss of mint luster. The reverse of the coin displays the established heraldic eagle design used from 1932 to 1998, showing a powerful eagle with outspread wings perched on a bundle of arrows symbolizing national defense, while below the arrows lie two olive branches representing peace, a balanced visual metaphor of the United States' readiness to protect itself while maintaining peaceful intentions. Above the eagle's head, centered beneath the rim, stands the motto E pluribus unum, Latin for out of many one, which expresses the unity of the nation's many states and peoples into a single republic. Encircling the design are the inscriptions United States of America at the top rim and $quarter at the bottom rim, clearly identifying the issuing authority and denomination for commercial use. The reeded edge of the coin, grooves cut along the circumference, serves both a historical anti-counterfeiting purpose and a tactile aid in distinguishing the quarter from other denominations. Although the 1977 D quarter has no major nationally recognized mint errors, collectors sometimes encounter minor varieties such as struck-through grease, die chips, small die cracks, off-center strikes, or weak strikes, all of which can add modest interest when pronounced. In typical circulated condition, the coin remains worth face value, but it represents a stable era of U.S. coinage preceding the commemorative state quarter program that began in 1999, making it part of the classic Washington quarter, era that ran from the Great Depression through the late 20th century. Even though many 1977 D quarters remain in circulation, each one carries the traditional symbols of American identity, liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and E pluribus unum, along with the familiar portrait of George Washington, providing a small but enduring link to the nation's history, its minting traditions, and its everyday commerce. This next top. The 1985 D Washington quarter, struck at the Denver Mint, represents part of the long-running Washington Quarter series first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and by 1985 the design had become a familiar, daily-use coin circulating throughout the United States, made according to the Post. 1965 clad standards established after rising silver prices forced the U.S. Mint to abandon the 90% silver alloy used in earlier decades. Thus, the 1985 D quarter is composed of a copper-nickel clad surface, 75% copper and 25% nickel on the outer layers, bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin its characteristic silvery appearance and satisfying the federal requirement for durable, lower-cost circulation coinage. The obverse front features the classic portrait of George Washington, originally sculpted by John Flanagan, showing Washington facing left with the inscriptions Liberty above his head, the national motto, In God We Trust, to the left, and the date 1985 at the bottom. The mint mark, D, identifying Denver production, appears just to the right of Washington's ponytail ribbon. The reverse carries Flanagan heraldic eagle design, depicting a powerful eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows symbolizing national defense, with two olive branches below representing the nation's desire for peace, and surrounding inscriptions reading, United States of America at the top, the motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many one, beneath, and $quarter at the bottom indicating denomination. The Denver Mint struck a very large quantity of these coins, hundreds of millions, making 1985 D quarters extremely common in circulated grades today, and most examples found in everyday pocket change carry only face value. 25 cents, unless they exhibit exceptional condition or rare die characteristics. In numismatics, condition is graded on the Sheldon scale from poor, P1, to mint state, MS 70, and because most 1985 D quarters entered heavy circulation, high-grade specimens, especially MS 67 or better, are far scarcer than their large mintage numbers might imply. Only a tiny percentage survive with flawless luster, strong strike, and minimal contact marks. Collectors also watch for certain die errors and varieties that can raise a 1985 D quarters value, including off-center strikes, die cracks, lamination flaws, filled die effects that weaken certain letters of "In God We Trust" or "Liberty", and broad strikes that spread the design outward due to a missing color during striking. While none of these errors is guaranteed to be extremely valuable, dramatic versions, especially major off-centers, double strikes, clipped planchets, or strong die caps, can command premiums sometimes reaching tens or hundreds of dollars depending on severity, eye appeal, and market demand. Normal well-worn 1985 D quarters, however, remain common and typically trade for face value because post-1965 clad quarters do not contain silver and therefore have no intrinsic metal value beyond their usefulness as currency. Still, for collectors building a date and mint mark Washington quarter set, the 1985 D is an important representative of the modern clad era, demonstrating the transition of U.S. coinage toward durability, mass production, and cost efficiency in the late 20th century. From a historical economic perspective, this coin also reflects the broader monetization patterns of the 1980s, when inflation, vending machine use, and expanding U.S. commerce required vast quantities of small denomination coins, and the mint optimized high-speed production to meet demand, resulting in the highly standardized, machine-struck appearance of coins like the 1985 D quarter. A fully uncirculated or proof-like example, especially one preserved in a protective holder since the year of issue, will retain its sharp rim details, clean fields, and crisp lettering of phrases like "Liberty", "In God We Trust", and "E Pluribus Unum", and such pieces are the only ones that can achieve top-tier grading results. In summary, the 1985 The United States of America Washington quarter dollar is a mass-produced, copper-nickel-clad circulation coin bearing iconic American symbols and mottos, with its collectible worth determined mainly by condition and unusual minting errors rather than rarity, yet it remains a meaningful artifact of U.S. monetary history, representing everyday economic life and the enduring design traditions of 20th-century American coinage. Next top. The 1998 United States of America Washington quarter dollar, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, represents one of the final issues of the long-running heraldic eagle reverse that had appeared on the nation's quarter since 1932 and would be discontinued after 1998 when the 50-state quarters program began, making this coin historically significant as the last regular-issue Philadelphia Washington quarter before the modern commemorative state designs took over, like other post-1965 quarters. The 1998 P is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, with a pure copper core sandwiched between layers consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a composition chosen to replace 90% silver after rising bullion costs made precious metal circulating coinage impractical in the 1960s. On the obverse front, the coin features the familiar portrait of George Washington as adapted by sculptor John Flanagan, a design that had been in continuous use for more than 6 decades by the time this coin was minted. Washington faces left with his tied-back hair ribbon, and above his head appears the word "Liberty", the national motto, "In God We Trust", appears to the left, and the date 1998 is placed at the bottom, while the mint mark, P for Philadelphia, sits near the right side just behind Washington's ponytail. The reverse, back, of the coin, also designed by Flanagan, features a heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows in its talons to symbolize the nation's readiness to defend itself, with an olive branch placed beneath to convey the simultaneous pursuit of peace. The inscriptions include the issuing nation, United States of America, across the top, the Latin motto, E Pluribus Unum, meaning, out of many one, centered beneath the eagle, and quarter dollar at the bottom, indicating the denomination. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 1 billion 1998 p quarters, making them extremely common in circulation, and because of this massive mintage, typical worn examples are worth only face value unless they exhibit exceptional condition or contain unusual minting errors. However, the date is still of significant interest to collectors because it marks the final chapter of the pre-state quarter era. In grading terms, numismatists evaluate the coin using the Sheldon scale, ranging from poor, P1, where nearly all detail is worn away, to mint state, MS 60 through MS 70, with MS 70 representing theoretical perfection. For a 1998 p quarter, most business strike coins fall between very fine, VF, and about uncirculated, AU, due to heavy use in everyday commerce, and only a small percentage survive in truly pristine MS 67 or MS 68 condition. High-grade pieces displaying strong luster, sharp detail in the hair and eagle feathers, clean fields free of contact marks, and well-preserved lettering such as Liberty, In God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum may attract collector interest and modest premiums. Additionally, several types of errors and die varieties can enhance the value of a 1998 p quarter, including off-center strikes, broad strikes caused by a missing collar during striking, double strikes, die cracks that appear as raised lines across the surface, die chips in the letters or in Washington's hair, struck-through errors caused by grease or debris on the die, and weak strikes resulting from improper striking pressure. While minor forms of these errors may only boost value slightly, dramatic versions, such as large off-centers, double-struck coins, strong die caps, or clipped planchets, can be significantly more valuable depending on rarity and condition. Unlike pre-1965 silver quarters, the 1998 p quarter contains no silver and thus has no intrinsic bullion value, but its numismatic interest lies in its role in U.S. coinage history, marking the end of an era and providing a baseline of comparison against the richly varied designs that would begin in 1999. The 1998 p quarter also reflects the technological consistency of late 20th century minting. High-speed automated presses, standardized clad planchets, and precise die engraving meant that billions of coins could be produced with uniformity and efficiency. However, this very efficiency also means that any deviation, a misalignment, defective die, or mechanical failure can produce collectible anomalies that stand out to specialists. Well-preserved examples of the 1998 p quarter exhibit a bright, evenly distributed mint luster, defined inner lines in Washington's hair curls, clear beveling of the lettering around the rim, and full feather detail on the eagle's chest and wings, all of which are easily next top. The 1987 p United States Washington quarter dollar is a circulating coin struck by the Philadelphia Mint, identifiable by the small p mint mark on the obverse just to the right of George Washington's ponytail ribbon, and it belongs to the long-running Washington Quarter series that began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. The coin's obverse was designed by sculptor John Flanagan, whose portrait of Washington remained the standard image on quarters for decades, until the state quarters program began in 1999, and the obverse also contains the inscriptions Liberty across the top, In God We Trust, to the left of Washington's profile, and the mint year 1987 below the bust, all rendered in the familiar classical lettering typical of late 20th century U.S. coinage. The reverse design, also by Flanagan, features a majestic heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, perched atop a bundle of arrows symbolizing strength and readiness to defend the nation, while an olive branch below represents the United States' commitment to peace. Surrounding the eagle are the inscriptions United States of America across the top and E Pluribus Unum, out of many one. The traditional national motto centered beneath the country name, with quarter dollar at the bottom, indicating the coin's denomination. The 1987 p quarter is composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy, specifically an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin its familiar silvery color and durability, and it has a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, a thickness of 1.75 millimeters, and a standard mass of 5.67 grams, specifications that have remained consistent for clad quarters since 1965. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of 1987 P quarters, making it a common issue with no unusual scarcity in circulated condition. And because of this large production quantity, most examples found today in pocket change hold primarily face value, though collectors still enjoy locating well-preserved specimens. Uncirculated pieces graded MS 64 to MS 66 can be modestly collectible, while the highest grade mint state examples, or those with exceptional strike quality, luster surfaces, or rare minting anomalies such as die cracks, double dies, off-center strikes, or unusually strong strike details, may carry higher premiums in the numismatic market. For those interested in the historical context, the 1980s were a period of steady production for the U.S. Mint, with the Washington quarter continuing unchanged in design through the decade except for minor die variations and quality differences between the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. The Philadelphia Mint in particular was transitioning into more modernized high-speed coining technology, which increased the consistency of clad coinage, but also introduced occasional errors that collectors now seek out. In everyday use, the 1987 P quarter served as a normal medium of exchange and saw heavy circulation, meaning that most surviving examples display typical wear on Washington's hair, the cheek and jaw area, and the eagle's feathers on the reverse, and these circulation marks generally limit their collectible value. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "E Pluribus Unum" carry significant meaning in American numismatic tradition. The former has appeared on U.S. coins since the Civil War era, symbolizing national identity and values, while the latter has been part of U.S. coinage since the earliest federal issues in the 18th century, emphasizing unity among diverse states. For collectors, a 1987 P quarter in pristine condition, with full mint luster, sharp details in Washington's hair curls and the eagle's feathers, and no major contact marks, can be a satisfying addition to a date and mint mark set, while error specialists may search for unusual die states, planchet problems, or striking misalignments. Although not a rare or high-value coin, the 1987 P Washington quarter remains a representative piece of late 20th century American coinage, reflecting the mint's technological evolution, the enduring iconography of the Washington design, and the long tradition of mottos such as Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum, all of which contribute to the historical and collectible interest of this seemingly ordinary yet culturally significant circulating coin. Next top. The 1989 P United States Washington quarter dollar is a copper-nickel-clad circulation coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identifiable by the P mint mark located on the obverse to the right of George Washington's tied ponytail, and it continues the long-running Washington quarter series that began in 1932 during the bicentennial celebration of Washington's birth. Its obverse was designed by sculptor John Flanagan, whose classical portrait of Washington, characterized by strong neoclassical lines, a dignified profile, and subtly detailed hair curls, served as the standard image on American quarters until the major redesigns of the late 1990s. Across the top of the obverse appears the bold inscription Liberty, representing the foundational ideal on which the United States was formed, while the motto, In God We Trust, sits to the left of Washington's profile, a phrase first mandated for regular coinage during the 19th century and firmly embedded in American numismatic symbolism. Beneath Washington's bust is the minted year 1989, marking this piece as part of the final decade before massive changes to U.S. quarter designs began. The reverse, also designed by Flanagan, features the classical heraldic eagle with wings outstretched and facing forward in a stately, symmetrical posture, perched upon a bundle of arrows symbolizing national preparedness and defense, with an olive branch below those arrows signifying a preference for peace. Above the eagle curves the inscription, United States of America, and directly beneath it appears, E Pluribus Unum, the long-standing motto meaning, out of many, one, which expresses the unity of the states. At the bottom of the reverse, The denomination quarter dollar is engraved in straightforward block lettering, completing the traditional layout used from 1932 until the state quarters program began in 1999. The coin is struck from a copper-nickel clad composition, consisting of outer layers that are 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, producing a durable, silver-colored coin resistant to wear and corrosion. It retains the familiar specifications of modern quarters, including a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, a thickness of 1.75 millimeters, a mass of 5.67 grams, and a reeded edge of 119 to 124 reeds, depending on the strike. In terms of mintage, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of 1989 P quarters, making this issue very common in circulation, and because of the high production numbers, most examples carry only face value unless they are in exceptional condition. Circulated pieces typically show smoothing on Washington's cheek, jawline, and hair curls, as well as flattening of the eagle's feathers, especially on the breast and wingtips, which is expected for coins that traveled widely through everyday commerce. Collectors seeking higher-grade examples often look for coins that exhibit full original mint luster, characterized by radial, frosty brilliance, and sharply detailed strike quality, where Washington's hair strands are crisp and well-defined and the eagle's wings retain clear feathering. Coins graded MS 65, MS 66, or better are considered premium examples of this date, though truly exceptional specimens can command additional value due to their relative scarcity at the highest grades. Error collectors sometimes search for 1989 P quarters displaying unusual minting anomalies, such as slight double die obverse or reverses, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, die cracks, or planchet flaws, though no major or famous errors are widely recognized for this date. Nevertheless, minor anomalies can still be desirable to specialists who appreciate the technical quirks of 1980s U.S. mint production. Historically, 1989 falls within a period when the United States Mint was modernizing its coinage operations, expanding its use of high-speed presses, and improving die preparation methods, but the Washington design itself remained unchanged for decades, making the 1989 P quarter a representative example of pre-state quarter era American coinage. Even though it is a common coin, it serves as a tangible link to the closing years of the 20th century, reflecting the durability and consistency of the nation's circulating currency and carrying forward the long-standing inscriptions Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and E Pluribus Unum, each of which represents an essential aspect of American identity, values, and continuity. As a collectible, the 1989 P Washington quarter is not highly valuable in most conditions, but it remains historically meaningful, aesthetically rooted in early 20th century neoclassical design, and